Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The House of Representatives passed a bill to keep the government running. And now Republicans and Democrats in the Senate are fighting over the budget. If they can't reach an agreement, we could have another government shutdown.
House Speaker Paul Ryan says in addition to the current budget battles, congressional Republicans are also looking at other issues like limiting abortion and stopping taxpayer money from going to Planned Parenthood. Abigail Robertson brings us this exclusive interview.
As the budget battle continues to prevent a government shutdown, lawmakers already plan to move on other priorities for 2018.
We want to work on getting people from welfare to work this year. We want to work on getting people into the careers they need now that we have an economy that's growing faster because of the policies we put in place.
And ahead of today's March for Life, Ryan says while the House leads in pushing legislation to limit abortions, it's equally important that the Senate steps up to help send bills to the president.
We see ourselves in the House as sort of the engine room of these ideas of advancing the pro-life cause and moving these bills to the Senate. And we do just want to make sure that people in the Senate own up to these things, that there are got to be Democrats in the Senate who also believe in at least limits to abortion at the very least.
And that challenge has been especially difficult in the fight to stop taxpayer money from going to Planned Parenthood.
We have in the House have passed banning Planned Parenthood funding across the board twice in the House. That's been a challenge of us getting it through the Senate.
Ryan also discussed the importance of faith in his life.
I could not do my job as a husband, as a father, as Speaker of the House without my faith. It is indispensable. It's an integral part of my life. I start my day in prayer. I end my day in prayer.
And the need for prayer for all those in office.
Ask everybody to pray for us. Pray for us that we are given wisdom. Pray for us that we keep a good temperament. Pray for us that we advance our principles and that we help heal this country.
He's also encouraged that Representative Steve Scalise will soon return to the Hill following surgery related to his injury from last summer's shooting at the baseball field. How have you seen God move amidst this tragedy?
I have seen God move amidst this tragedy because when Steve Scalise came off that helicopter to the hospital, he had no pulse, no blood pressure, and now Steve Scalise is back at his job because of the power of prayer.
As midterm elections near, more than 30 Republicans plan to retire. News that wasn't totally unexpected, according to Ryan. Still, he tells CBN News GOP leaders feel good about accomplishments and running on their record.
We're actually getting big things done. We've overhauled the Veterans Administration. We're working tirelessly to rebuild our military, to advance the cause of life, and our tax reform bill is going to do so much to help so many people. I'm excited that we have a pro-life partner in the White House, which we have not had for some time.
Speaker Ryan tells me he's confident the president will sign any pro-life legislation that makes it to his desk. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Well, pray for our leaders, pray for our country. If we face another government shutdown, it could happen today by midnight tonight. How dysfunctional do we have to get before we realize we're all in this together, and either we're one nation undivided. We certainly seem divided at this point. In other news, California authorities have uncovered more evidence in the case of 13 children abused by their own parents. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. The California couple tortured a dozen of their children for years, including chaining them to their beds for up to months. Prosecutors say at first David and Louise Turpin simply neglected their children, but it eventually turned into severe, pervasive, and prolonged abuse. 12 of the children were severely starved, the 29-year-old weighing just 82 pounds.
They began to be tied up, first with ropes. One victim at one point was tied up and hog-tied. These defendants eventually began using chains and padlocks to chain up the victims to their beds.
The Turpins pled not guilty in court yesterday to multiple counts of torture, child abuse, and false imprisonment. The daughter who ran away from the home planned her escape with her siblings for 2 years. The kids were able to keep their own journals, which are expected to provide powerful evidence in the case against the parents. Well, a follow-up now, the Trump administration could transfer its U.S. embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem by next year. Earlier this week, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told reporters he thought the move could happen within a year. But President Trump, in a subsequent interview with Reuters, said it wouldn't happen that quickly. Trump apparently was talking about building a new embassy in Jerusalem. The New York Times is now reporting the State Department has settled on a more modest plan, converting an existing consular building in West Jerusalem. That would cut the cost of the project and let the U.S. ambassador and his staff move into the Jerusalem location as soon as next year. And Gordon, it looks like someone was paying attention to your advice.
Yeah, I was saying that, have been saying that on the program, said it as recently as yesterday. There's a consulate building recently built, it's built within the last 20 years. It's got 4 to 5 stories, and the New York Times was sort of dismissive in the article, saying it provides visas and consular services for U.S. citizens. It does a whole lot more than that. And when you look at what that consulate really does, it's unique in the world where a U.S. consulate doesn't report to the embassy of the country, but reports back directly to the State Department. And that's what the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem has been doing for decades. Now, here's the kicker. It oversees all the U.S. aid going to the Palestinian Authority. And on their own website, you know, we've been talking about pay for slay, we've been talking about UNRWA, but here's another one for you. USAID, this is your tax money, $5 billion in aid to the Palestinian Authority since 1994. All you have to do is go to the consulate website and you can find out more information. And here's another website for you to look at. Look at the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem, their Facebook page. And if you can imagine a Facebook page from a U.S. consulate where the majority language on that page is not English, it's Arabic. They have been doing Arabic language Facebook pages because that's their mission. They're the primary source of contact for the U.S. to the Palestinian Authority. They're the primary administrator of all the funds that are going to the Palestinian Authority. And that's the role of that consulate. Changing it to be the U.S. Embassy, that's a stroke of genius.